On June 16, 1933, federal agents Joe Lackey and Frank Smith were in Hot Springs, Arkansas, accompanied by Otto Reed, chief of police in McAlester, Oklahoma. It was mid-morning, and operating on a tip, the officers seized Frank Nash at the White Front Cigar Store, owned by gambler Dick Galatis. As Nash was being spirited away by the officers, Agent Smith tugged lightly at Nash's toupee, and it came off. Upon learning of Jelly's capture, his putative wife Frances became hysterical, and Dick Galatis started making phone calls and eventually learned that the officers were taking Nash through Joplin on their way to Kansas City and eventually Leavenworth. So Galatis and Frances Nash chartered a plane to fly them to Joplin, where they met up with Nash's old friend from his early days of confinement, Duffy Farmer, and his wife, who had a quiet home where roving gangsters could lay low until the heat from law enforcement cooled off. The group soon learned from newswire reports that instead of going through Joplin, the officers were transporting Jelly on the train out of Fort Smith to Kansas City. They contacted by phone Louis Doc Stacy, a Chicago hood and proprietor of the notorious OP Inn in Chicago, where Frank and Verne Miller used to frequent. Doc Stacy called Kansas City bootlegger Fritz Malloy, who in turn went to the Old Mission golf course where Verne Miller was enjoying a round of golf. Miller left the links and called the hysterical Frances Nash in Joplin and promised he would rescue Jelly.
Verne was on the golf course, having a good time, and finally he got those messages and he called her back, and at least once in the course of the evening he hung up on her because she was driving him out of his mind. She, meaning Frances Nash, was driving Verne out of his mind because she was hysterical. And Verne kept saying, "I'll take care of it, I'll take care of it, I'll take care of it."
Also on June 16, 1933, Pretty Boy Floyd, accompanied by his alcoholic sidekick 24-year-old Adam Richetti, neither of whom knew Verne Miller or Frank Nash, were zigzagging northward along the cat roads of western Missouri with two hostages, Bolivar, Missouri Police Chief Jack Killingsworth and insurance businessman Walter Griffith. Earlier that morning, Floyd and Richetti were at the Bitzer Chevrolet car dealership in Bolivar, where Richetti's brother Joe, a mechanic, was working on the most recent car Floyd had stolen. Sheriff Killingsworth strolled in for a cup of Java and was taken hostage for safe passage by Floyd and Richetti. Out on the cat roads of Missouri, they flagged down Walter Griffith, commandeered his car, and the foursome weaved their way to Kansas City.
Why were they on their way to Kansas City? To have fun, like everybody else. This was the place to come and play if you were a crook. Adam Richetti and Pretty Boy Floyd were on their way to here to play. It's just that along the way, they suddenly they kidnapped the sheriff, which was pretty stupid.
The federal agents with the manacled Frank Nash arrived early evening, June 16, 1933, at the train depot at Fort Smith, Arkansas, and called Reed Vetterli, the special agent in charge of the FBI office in Kansas City, and told him that they would be catching the Missouri Pacific train due to arrive in Kansas City at 7:15 the next morning. Vetterli then contacted the Kansas City Police Department and requested two officers be there to assist in transporting the escaped convict back to Leavenworth. At about 10:45 in the evening, Pretty Boy Floyd and his entourage arrived in KC in the West Bottoms at 9th and Hickory Streets. Floyd walked to a bar about a block away and made a phone call, and shortly thereafter another car came and Floyd and Richetti transferred their arsenal of weapons and rode off. The stage was now set for the drama that was about to unfold the following morning, June 17, 1933.